I'm Dr. Sam Clovis, and I'm running for the United States Senate for the state of Iowa. I'm here today and I'm looking at something that I think all of us need to pay attention to, and this is a U.S. Constitution. You can see mine's a little tattered, it's a little worn, and I'll tell you stories about this because I'm a storyteller. I'm a college professor, a tenured professor at a small liberal arts college in Iowa. I also happen to be a lecturer at the Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey, California. And I also happen to have a daily radio talk show on one of our local stations. But I use this Constitution all the time. I travel with it, I'm never without it. This is one that was obtained from one of the think tanks in Washington, D.C., and as you can see, it's well worn. It's well worn because I read it. I read it all the time. I constantly refer to it, and I constantly come back to this because when all else fails, one has to have a place to anchor, a safe harbor. And for me, as an American citizen, the United States Constitution is that safe harbor. I think about this all the time, and this is one of the reasons I'm running for the United States Senate, is because I think it's high time that we have something different in Washington. We've used the word change over and over again in the past two campaigns. And we see change all the time. People offer change, and they want to offer you change to do this, change to do that. We've got to change the direction of the country. Really? Yeah, I think that's right. But we need to have people who are willing to lead, people who are willing to show the courage of conviction, people who are willing to stand up and tell the American people one thing, and that's the truth. I'm a career military officer. I retired a long time ago. But in all my time in the service, the one thing I stood by was something my father taught me a long time ago. And that was the issue. He said, Sam, no matter what you do, when you stand in front of your troops, you tell them the truth. And no matter how hard it is, no matter what it is that they have to do, they'll do it because you've told them the truth. And the reason you tell them is the truth is so they'll trust you, that they'll understand you, that they'll know that no matter what the circumstances are, you'll be there with them all the way. That's what leadership is about. I defy anyone to come to me today and tell me about the leadership that goes on in Washington, D.C. There is no leadership in Washington. We certainly don't have it in the White House. And frankly, if you look at the House and the Senate, those individuals that we would look to for leadership are too few and far between. And why? Because of the establishment that's inside the Beltway. Those people that Angelo Cordovella calls the ruling class. We, the people of the country class, have been victimized, tortured, subjected to all these different oppressions and the suppression of things that we hold so dear. Today, we see the invasion into our schools. The progressive movement is taking over our education system. We also have seen the suppression of speech. And if you don't think that this latest IRS scandal isn't suppression of free speech, then you're not paying attention. Take it even further. It's not only that, it's not only the suppression of speech, it attacks the very fundamental basis of what we call community, and the fact that this suppresses our ability to assemble and to associate. Freedoms guaranteed by the Bill of Rights. I'm running for the United States Senate because I think it's high time. The American people and the people of Iowa have somebody who will look them in the eye and tell them the truth. And I'll always tell them the truth. The one thing we're going to find out in this campaign as we go along is there's always going to be promises made. We're going to do all of these things. And we're going to talk about things like the Affordable Care Act and the repeal of Dodd-Frank and the protection of the Constitution and all of this. And all you're going to hear are the same things that they think you want to hear. Because the establishment is about making sure that you get what you need. They give you enough sop to make sure that you stay quiet, and then you'll go on your way. They'll pat you on the head, and guess what? We'll get another Congress just like the last one, and the one before that, and the one before that. And they want to perpetuate this because everything is about self-interest. It's not about the interest of the nation. It's not about what's important to you, the American people. And I'll only make you one promise. And that promise is that I will always tell you the truth. There's an old line we always talk about here, and I learned when I was raised in a Pentecostal church. My mother dragged me to church 3 times a week. And I didn't mind because faith is a very important part of my life. But one of the things I found out, I heard a minister one day stand up at the altar, and he uttered these words to the congregation. He says, "Everybody in here wants to go to heaven, but none of you want to die." What are we going to do about spending and taxes and all these other things? Because everybody wants a balanced budget. Everybody wants to see the economy strong again. Everybody wants to have these things done. Everybody wants fiscal responsibility. But are they willing to give up their programs to do that? Don't you think it's time that you have someone in the United States Senate will stand up and look you in the eye and say, this is it. We've got to cut your program. But it's in the interest of the nation. Do you get that? It's in the interest of the nation. And if it's in the interest of the nation, it'll be in the interest of Iowa. That's what I am here for. That's what I represent. I was raised in Kansas. I was very fortunate. I was given God's gifts of athleticism and a great brain. I was a good student. I was selected to go to the United States Military Academy and the United States Air Force Academy, and I chose to go to the Air Force path. I entered the academy with 1,000 other young men, just as brave and strong, and 4 years later I graduated with a commission and a degree in political science. I went on to pilot training. I achieved mission readiness status in 3 different combat airplanes, the F-106, the F-4 Wild Weasel, that's a manly mission if you want to know, and the F-16. I retired as the Inspector General of the United States Space Command and the North American Aerospace Defense Command. Some of my tours, I also had a tour in the Pentagon, one of the best tours I ever had. I was a member of Project Checkmate, a think tank for the Chief of Staff of the Air Force. And there I was able to develop expertise in Europe, the Soviet Union, the Middle East, and South America. These things have served me well, and particularly in today's climate, when we see so much of the hot button issues and the hot spots of the earth are in those regions. I left the Air Force and I went into the private sector. I was a businessman, a very successful one. I also got some more education. I got a master's in business administration along the way, and then finally a doctorate in public administration. And I reached a point in my life where I wanted to change. And I wanted to do something where I was happy and fulfilled, and what that was teaching. I became a college professor. And here I am today, a college professor sitting in front of you here talking about what's going on in this country. There's something very significant that you need to pay attention to as we go along this path here. And I hope you'll join me and you'll go along with me, is that we have to understand what we're after here and what you are about. It's not about me. It's not about me. It's about you. And it's about what you are willing to do. It's about whether or not you're willing to step up and do something that among my fans and friends, we call always doing that one more thing. Let me tell you the story. There's a line in the movie The Untouchables. Sean Connery's talking to Kevin Costner, who plays the role of Elliot Ness, and Sean Connery is the old Irish cop. And they're in there, and Ness is frustrated over the fact that he can't seem to get at Al Capone. And Sean Connery, the old Irish cop, looks at him and says, "What are you willing to do? You must be willing to do one more thing." So I'm going to ask you to do one more thing. I'm going to ask you to stand up with me, because this is not going to happen unless you commit to this as much as I am committed to this. It's an uphill slug. The slope is steep, the hill is high. This is about money. This is about name recognition. This is about all of those things that the establishment says it's all about. And perhaps it is. But I think it's about something more important. It's about liberty. It's about family. It's about faith. It's about community. It's about what's doing best for this nation. I'm Sam Clovis, and I'm running for the United States Senate.